What's up, y'all? It is Tasha. I am back with another video. Thank you so much for stopping into my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because I'm checking the analytics here. And a lot of y'all watching, but y'all ain't subscribed. So we'll take a beat, hit the subscribe button below, and then we'll get right back to our scheduled program. All right, done? Perfect. So welcome. We are here with another Put a Ring on It review. We are in season 3, episode 3. So let's just jump right into the review, y'all. So we pick up with Shea and Alfonso where we left off. You know, she was still upset about him being so excited to go on his date. She says her trust is very limited with him. She said hours and hours went by. She was just pacing, looking at her phone. Anything could have happened. And I was just like, girl, they only went to go get something to eat, right? Or did we miss a portion of their date? But I'm just like, they couldn't have been gone for that long. But anyway, I'm convinced she was so worried because she knows he will cheat. We then move on to Shorty and Kenneth. Kenneth says his energy was off and he was really anxious to get off the date because, you know, he and Shorty were such in a bad space. When asked, Shorty was like, I don't think he was that attractive to her. But Kenneth was like, no, she was cute, but I just couldn't, you know, give her the energy that she deserved. He said basically when they are in a bad space, Shorty really makes him question his worth. And at that point, I was like, no offense, but what are you worth? What are you doing? Because at this point, we had no clue what you were contributing to this relationship, sir. So Otis says his date was good and he likes that she was traditional in her foundation because he says, you know, he is willing to take on more, but he says Charlana is more 50-50. And I'm like, Otis, is not tradition that you want. It is control that you want. And thankfully, Charlana knows that I'm going to be in trouble if I give him everything and I don't continue to keep things 50-50. Because in my eyes, I could be completely wrong. I feel like Otis wants all the control so that she would then become dependent on him and then she would not be able to leave him. You ain't playing stupid. We ain't stupid, Otis. We ain't stupid. Charlana says his traditionalism can cause issues and we all know it's complete BS. Kenneth says he will pass on a second date with Shemaya when asked, and I'm like, pretty obvious because y'all date was trash. Alfonso says he won't be going on a second date either because they just did not click. And I'm just confused if he did that for him or if he did that more for Shea because Shea had such a hard time that if he felt like if I go on a second date with this girl, Shea is probably going to bust the windows out my car at this point. Otis said he also will not be going on another date with Cherie because things didn't click with her either. So basically at this point, the first rounds of dates are complete. And Dr. Nicole lets us know that everybody will be going on dates this week except for Shea and Alfonso, which they will have a session with Dr. Nicole this week, which is much needed. Not that I think it's going to change anything, but they need to not go on dates. So we then see Kenneth getting ready for his next date, and he's again dressed like a Verizon representative headed to the call center, y'all. And I'm just like, can we please get a little bit of swag? Like, just because you put a collar shirt on does not make you look grown up, Kenneth. Like, sir, do better. So his date is Miaja. I believe that's how you say her name. And she's a radio personality. So in the same field of Shorty. Shorty opens the door and she's like, Miaja, and she's like, Shorty. So I assume that they knew each other because of the industry that they are both in. But then Shorty lets us know that actually they work together, that Miaja was an intern for her. So they used to work very closely together. So they know each other. It's been a few years, but they do know each other. She says she doesn't know if she feels better or worse that it is someone that she knows that's going out with Kenneth. And Kenneth is like, why y'all know each other? Like, this is going to be awkward now. Anyway, they head off to their date. She drove up in one of them little slingshot cars, which I think are pretty neat, but they rode off to their date and I figured she was cute enough, you know. They end up going to a seafood boil restaurant and I'm just like, this is what we pick for a first date. Like, this is after you get comfortable with somebody, you go to a seafood boil place because you're going to get a little messy and you don't want that to be first date because you're still trying to be a little bit cute. But she asked him what he does for a living. And I was like, thank you for asking because the rest of us want to know. He tells her that he is an entrepreneur, but right now he is contracting and he's starting a food blog. I'm like, what in the Tommy don't got a job is going on here? Like, so you an entrepreneur in the sense of you a contractor, or you an entrepreneur in the sense of you a food blogger, or you an entrepreneur in a whole different other business? Anybody else was totally confused on still what it is he does to make money around here. They both find out they're both Geminis, and they're like, that's a connection. And they start taking shots, and I'm like, well, okay, what does that mean? They eat their food. They talk about his flaws, and he says one of his flaws is has a big heart. And I'm like, and you crazy, and you steal personal banking information when you get upset, and you go spam people's social media jobs to try to get them in trouble in your spare time. Let's be honest here, and let's just say it all, okay? He says basically it hurts when you don't get the love back, essentially, that you're putting out. He really says that Myasia really allowed him to open up and be himself. He starts blushing, he starts sweating, and I'm just like, thankfully this date is going better than the first, but I still don't really see much of a connection between the two of them either. So Otis is headed out to his second date. He's dressed like a ghetto cowboy, and his date is with Milan. She is a radio DJ. She don't look like his type, but they found out they went to the same high school, actually, so that was a little bit of connection for them. They talk about what they like to do for fun. He says he likes outdoor adventures, so with them going horseback riding for their date, he was like, this is right up my alley. I love working out as well. And she's like, I can tell you like working out. And he's like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And Otis loved him a good compliment coming from anybody, child. She then invites him to a show that she has going on that same night, DJing. He says he has some decisions to make. I'm just like, this shouldn't even be a decision to make, sir. You don't know this woman, and I think all y'all signed up for was this day date that y'all on, not to extend the date to nighttime. So unless Charlana going with you, the answer is no. But he basically says he doesn't want to rock the boat right now with his current relationship, so he is going to pass. She then tells him that, his girlfriend is a lucky woman, and basically starts to stroke his ego. And I'm just confused because what we saw wasn't much to a date in them communicating. So what did he say to really make her feel like his girlfriend is a lucky woman? Because, baby, she ain't. His girlfriend needs to run far, 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 far away. So back at Alfonso and Shea's place, they are preparing for their couple session with Dr. Nicole, and Shea says she wants to work on their trust issues. Dr. Nicole looks amazing, child. Ponytail swinging, leather skirt, red lips. I was like, yes, Dr. Nicole. Thank you, ma'am. She asks, how things have been going since the session. Shea says her problem is that she does not have a sense of security with him, and he says it's because of his job, which is to help manage Rick Ross, which explains the Rick Ross lookalike. She says in his eyes, he says in his eyes that she doesn't have proof. So when she comes to him talking about all these different women and things like that, he's like, where's the proof? And of course, because she can't actually muster up, I guess, like a PI, private eye pictures and things like that, or, location tracking or something like that, then that means she has to be lying. And I'm just like, girl, him saying this makes him guilty off rip, okay? Like, if he wasn't out here doing things he wasn't supposed to be doing, he would not say, well, where's your proof? He would just tell you he has not been doing anything, and he would show you proof that he has not been doing anything. Like, girl, stop. I said, really. He says that a girl posted them on social media, and under the caption or photo, whatever, the girl says that this is the love of her life. He is the love of her life. And Shea says this is somebody I believe that either he was in a relationship with previously, or they just kind of messed around. And the girl even has his phone number and called them when they were in the car together. And I'm just like, well, is this recent, or is this in the beginning of y'all relationship? Like, because this don't really make sense. He says he promotes a lot of stuff, and he really can't control, women saying things. And again, you can provide her some type of security. So no, you cannot police what people are saying in the comments, but you can do things to help make sure she feels secure and knows that this is completely work. This is separate from what I'm trying to build with you personally. So Dr. Nicole talks about Alfonso establishing boundaries, which he hasn't set, with his relationship. And she says, really, if your relationship is worthy of protecting, you have to set boundaries with people. He says girls are going to be around, and it's nothing he can do about it. She just has to trust him. And I'm just like, but you have given her plenty of reasons not to trust you. So why is the trust just supposed to be automatic, sir? I'm just not understanding what's happening. Fonzo says he thinks he is too friendly, which is something he can work on, and he will, pull back, but Shea doesn't believe it, and neither do we. She says she doesn't want him communicating with other women outside of business or friends. And then she says, I got to kind of use friends loosely, because then he'll basically take that and kind of run with it. And I guess he'll consider every woman a friend and says, well, you said I could mingle with friends. Like, he basically will just find a loophole in what she's saying. Dr. Nicole says he needs to think about the power he gives to people outside of his home. And again, this man said, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, the fact that you just continue to act dumbfounded, like you just don't know what to do about any of these situations, it's basically a cop out of, let me just continue to play stupid. And if I continue to play stupid, then that means she can't hold me accountable for doing anything, because I'm going to act like everything is out of my control. So I just don't get it. But I'm just, at this point, with everything Shea has brought to our attention, I'm convinced that she just likes the lifestyle that he can provide, the connections that he can provide, the fact that she probably can get into certain circles because of his job that he can provide, more than she actually loves him, because the amount of red flags that are being displayed at this moment, they're not even on the floor. The red flags are posted on the walls. The red flags are in the kitchen. The red flags are in the car. The red flags are everywhere, and she is just continuing to choose to ignore them or think that things are just going to get better. And no. So back at Otis and Charlana's place, it's now Charlana's turn to go on a date. She says, I'm so hungry. He says, great, go ahead and go on the date hangry then. Childish. Otis then tells her that his date was cool and he enjoyed the date, but he's being very vague about his date while she's trying to continue to ask him questions to get all the details. And I'm like, Charlana, girl, he trying to play with you. The date wasn't hitting for nothing, so please don't be worried about it. He says he wished he could be honest with her about the dates, but again, he feels like he can't. And she is then wondering if he is holding back things that have happened on his date. And again, this is a form of control that Otis wants to play with her. It's like, she's about to go on a date, so let me just give her little tidbits of information, because that's going to then make her mind wander and make her mind be still on me while she's on this date. It's like, quit playing these mind games. So her date shows up, and it's a guy named Brent. He really doesn't look like her type compared to Otis, so Otis really does not seem to be worried this go around. They head out on their date, which is a pasta making class. So the setup is real cute. Candles, rose petals, personal shelf, all the good stuff. And she says that she does think Brent is cute. Brent asks where she sees herself in the next 5 years. She says married and with children. Brent says in the next 5 years he wants to run for Congress. So, she's like, hey, he's smart, he's confident, and I think that is real attractive, girl. I said, okay, because, he was all right looking to me, but no, not really my type. But he says he only wants his wife to work if she wants to work. And she asks him about submission, because we know how Otis feels about submission. And he says he doesn't like the word because he really wants a partner. So he says, if I feel like we have to use that word in our relationship, I basically want it to be a two-way street. So, because submission can be on both sides, which we know this is very different from Otis in his thinking. So he's definitely racking up some bonus points with her, and she is considering a second date. And if she goes on a second date with this man, Otis is going to shit a brick. Do you hear me? So next we see Shorty on her second date with Hollywood, and they go to a restaurant to eat. She tells him that she picked him for a second date because he's so easy on the eyes, and he just makes, dating be a little bit easy for them. Shorty says she has tried breaking up with Kenneth before. She said one time she got a new place. This man met her at her job and followed her to her new place, and I guess just fell into living with her once again. And I'm like, do you not see how crazy that is? That's borderline psycho. Like, girl, that is not sweet or cute. That is crazy, Shorty. So Hollywood makes an analogy about dogs peeing on the floor and getting in trouble and not doing it again, and basically men are dogs, and that's kind of how you have to treat them, just with whatever version of a dog they are. And I'm like, well, okay, Hollywood, I guess. She asks him if he wants to get married, and he says yes, and life is too short to be anything but happy. And basically Hollywood is like, your man need to get his act together because he got a good woman. And I'm just like, I can't really take these dates with Hollywood seriously, because word on the curb is Hollywood is in a committed relationship at this point. So it's like, you already know these dates are not going anywhere. I'm assuming maybe at the time he was single, or at the time they just brought Hollywood back just to get some extra views on the show. I don't know. But at this point, we know these two are not going to end up being anything. So it's like, why really get invested in this? But she says Hollywood came in her life for a reason, basically to show her that the man that she is looking for is out there. So now it's time for the couples to come back to the group session with Dr. Nicole. Everybody said they had a good week. And I'm like, okay, we're just going to keep saying this from week to week. So we start with Otis and his date, and he says the date was fun. His date was attractive, and there was a bit of a connection, but he thinks the connection has to come more, can't come from just looks from the person. He says it just made it more comfortable to talk to her and kind of be around her because they're from the same hometown. Charlana says that, that he established some rules and he cut her off and he was like, no, we. And she was like, you gonna let me finish? And she's like, you established some rules. And basically Charlana kind of just fell in line with the rules. But she said the rule was that they would discuss their dates. But whenever, of course, he came back from his date, he was real vague with the details he was given. So she was like, it's a double standard, because she feels like when she came back from her first date, that she felt like she didn't give him enough details, which is basically why he completely showed his ass. So it's just like, if you want me to give it to you, you have to give it to me. And it seems to be with Otis, there's always some sort of double standard of he wants her to do some things, but he's not willing to do those same things himself. She says that basically she felt scolded by him because she didn't give him enough information. And he says, oh, I wish she didn't feel that way. And I'm like, but she does, sir. And it's obvious that she does. Dr. Nicole says that she feels so Dr. Nicole stressed that she feels that way from him and not other people. So it has to be some type of experience in the conflict that is happening to make her feel like she is being scolded. He says there are times when he hasn't scolded her, but she still feels that way. Let me repeat it. He says there are times when he hasn't scolded her, which means he has scolded her, but she still feels that way. And I'm like, but why are you scolding her? She is your girlfriend, not your child. I'm just not understanding. So Dr. Nicole basically repeats what I just said. She was like, so you saying that says there are times when you scold her, which is why she feels this way. And she tells him that something is happening in this communication that makes her feel like a child. And that, sir, is what needs to be corrected. He says that she perceives that when people hold her accountable or when she doesn't hear what she wants to hear, then she feels like she's being scolded. I'm like, gaslighting has now entered the chat. Let me make her feel like it is all in her head that she is being scolded, and it's truly not me and the words that are coming out of my mouth that is making her feel scolded. Dr. Nicole says if this continues, it doesn't respect. Dr. Nicole says if it continues, it doesn't respect what they have to say, and it will really eat at their relationship long term, and it will eat them alive, and they have to really fix the root of the issue if they want to fix it long term. Otis then has to say something back to Dr. Nicole, and Dr. Nicole is like, no. Just sit with it and receive it. And then he has to start talking again because, of course, Otis can take no accountability for what his own behavior does. Like, is this man a woman hater at this point? Like, I'm just not understanding what his issue is, or he's just a master manipulator. Like, I don't know. But that was the end of the episode. It really wasn't much to the episode this week, but next week, child, it's going to get real ghetto because they are all going on dates at the same place at the same time. So Shea looks like in the preview, she going to show her ass again next week. So we should be all here for y'all because next week should be entertaining. So whatever y'all could pull from this dry ass episode, drop down in the comments below and we will chat it up. Until then, I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.